This next story takes us to Jakarta, where a group of young professionals are embodying what it means to be part of the so-called solidarity economy.
This megacity has been hard hit by the pandemic. Jakarta, capital of Indonesia and Southeast Asia's fastest growing internet economy. In its darkest hour, one man, a hobby musician, turned this to his advantage. Lody Andrian teamed up with some friends to stand strong in the face of the pandemic.
We didn't know how long this will last. It wasn't clear what disease this was, and we didn't know when it will end. So from there, actually, from that uncertainty, we decided to do something.
And this is what he came up with. Scrolling her Instagram account, Mareta Putri, who had just lost her job in an advertising agency, discovered BagiRata, an initiative that promised financial aid without red tape.
Actually, I had no income other than selling breakfast. My husband used to work, but he was laid off too in the pandemic. So to feed the family, I tried to sign up for this platform, BagiRata, to have at least some funds to keep my breakfast business going.
BagiRata is a wealth distribution platform where the name reflects the aim. It translates to equal share, because this is what Lody Andrian felt was needed most in the lockdown. With 4 friends, the 29-year-old designer founded the non-profit organization.
BagiRata is a cross-subsidy platform for the people who are affected by the pandemic, especially informal workers who don't get government assistance or who don't get help from their offices, and freelancers. So the platform itself allows people who can help financially to get in contact with people who need help. Likewise, the latter can say what they need.
More than 4,000 people from all over Indonesia have already received money through BagiRata. The founders have distributed around 90,000 euros in donations. The key to success was that Andrian took advantage of an existing digital infrastructure that had been built up in Indonesia in recent years. He programmed BagiRata as a direct transfer system where the money doesn't have to go through their hands. Donors can directly send funds to beneficiaries through their e-wallet. Almost everybody here uses apps like Ovo, GoPay or Dana, and mobile phones are affordable. The advertisement also takes place online. What turned out to be more time-consuming, however, was the verification process. The team wanted to make sure that people didn't register twice. Moreover, they wanted to only help people hit by the pandemic.
So what we do is actually a full feasibility assessment. We check if the profession of the person applying is really affected. Is he or she a business owner or an employee? And of course, was the business disrupted by the pandemic, or are there other reasons, like a drop in demand?
It's a time-consuming procedure for 5 people, particularly after hours. But for donors like Haria Rivani, this is extremely important. The creative director regularly uses the platform to help people in need.
It's definitely better, meaning that the concept of BagiRata is clearly better than what the government has to offer. For one thing, I can list the people I want to support, and I also have more confidence in the spirit of the people in BagiRata. The spirit of solidarity is great, and there is no other interest, because they really want to help each other. And in my opinion, that's a significant thing indeed.
Rivani feels privileged to be able to work from home if another wave builds up, like right now with Omicron. So he's happy to share some of his money. He also appreciates that via the app he can remain anonymous, while still knowing who will receive his money.
Actually, we're not all in the same boat, because there's so many people who really need help. So it's as simple as that. I look at people's profile, I see, for example, what kind of reason he or she has to apply, then I check their background a bit, those kind of things. Well, I'm not that picky.
Initially, BagiRata was planned as a short-term project, 3 months at most. That was 2 years ago.
Now we still stick with it. When the pandemic is over and mobility returns to normal and the economy starts to improve, we will close this platform. However, the pandemic is still ongoing. Therefore, BagiRata will probably continue to help hundreds of people.
Mareta Putri no longer needs the platform, at least for now. Her husband found a new job, and the 28-year-old mother of 2 is now optimistic that the country's economy will recover too. She puts her trust in the official booster campaign, for which she'll register with, what else? Her smartphone.
We're joined by DW's Asia Pacific Bureau Chief Georg Mattes. He's also the author of that report. Georg, you followed the people we saw in the story there for months. What's the situation like now for Indonesians?
Effectively, the situation right now is that the economy here has practically bounced back from the time in summer last year when Indonesia was hard hit by the Delta wave. Now, it's a bit of an ironical situation here that we still see parts of the economy opening up and parts of the economy preparing for a potential Omicron wave to come. The key difference this time, however, is that the vaccination campaign has been quite successful. 85% of people in Indonesia, some 200 million people eligible for vaccinations, have received their first dose. 58% have received the second dose and 1% the booster. And that will be key. That is part of the strategy of the government, where basically the government puts its hope in that this time they do not have to lock down the economy as much and place their hope into the effectiveness of this booster.
Now, that's what the government is doing, but this story is an example of the solidarity economy at work, essentially of people helping each other out. Does that mean they don't think the government is doing enough?
I would say it's an example of the spirit that you have in Indonesia, that people really reach out to help each other. To be fair, when it comes to the government, one has to say that it's facing huge challenges. If you lock down an economy like Indonesia, that creates enormous problems. And so the government has put out some stimulus packages, to deal with the health sector. In fact, for this year alone, 30 billion euros have been earmarked for various projects. A lot of that will go into the health sector, but there is some controversy now whether some of that money is also planned to be used for the moving of the capital of Jakarta to a different island. And that is what some people reject, because they say that the problems we have right now are already so big.
Now, you cover the Asia-Pacific area for us, and a China slowdown is expected to impact the wider region. How big of a concern is this where you are?
Look, with Indonesia, you have the biggest coal exporter. With China, you have the biggest coal importer worldwide. So they do make a happy couple if things go well. If things don't go well, you immediately feel the results here in Indonesia. In 2020, you already had problems in the electric industry when COVID was raging in China. In 2021, the country was hard hit because there was a huge drop in exports to China. China being the biggest exporting destination for Indonesia. And so pretty much everyone is expecting that this will have an impact on the relationship now as well, particularly at a time when, for instance, with nickel, there's a lot of cooperations going on to be prepared for the battery industry with cars. On the other hand, a number of Indonesians have already set out that they place also their hopes into the US market, because the US is keen to increase its relations with China, with Indonesia, in order to decrease the influence of China in this region.
Georg Mattes, he's our Asia Pacific Bureau Chief. Thank you very much for your time today.